We're going to get started. Before we do, I want to introduce you to my senior registrar. Barbara Sweeney. She's trying to retire, but she keeps coming back, actually because she likes talking to the customers. And when we need someone with gray hair, but I'll say to talk to them on Barbara's, you should hear her. She has it, the spiel down. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's just, I don't know, it's just awful, but you know, we just have to do this, and this is the way we found it's best to do things. And so we're she just smoozes them to death. And she's my wife. So she has great power. So somebody asked us about branding, and it's funny that it should have come up now, because in just the last year we have started to work a lot more on branding. We had the design work done early on. We thought the design was pretty close to what we needed to project a dedicated professional approach to gymnastics. And branding, you know, not so much. We were able to get the little thing on everybody's shirt, and it took us, I'm going to say 20 years to get everybody to wear the little thing on the floor, but we finally got that accomplished. And then we said, well, you know, you really just don't quite have a brand. It turned out one of our instructors had taken time off from being a professional designer for Leaf and McPherson, some PR agency. And she had 2 children, so she came in bringing up the children. She was a gymnast. And she said, oh, I should do a brand analysis for you. And since she was already on the payroll, we said, great, you know, these rates, it's fantastic. We did actually end up paying her designer rates for her design work. But the point was that she brought a professional approach to branding. Now, in talking during the break and in looking before coming in, we noticed there are a lot of clubs pretty close to each other in this area. So to stand out, you need not only a clean site with a good message, you need a brand that is definitive, number one, and distinct. Because right down the street is another brand. And so this is worth thinking through. I didn't, until I did that, realize why somebody wanted to talk about brands. So here's how we have gone about it. I'm not going to say it's the best way ever, because we're still in the middle of it. It's taken us almost a year to get as far as I'm going to show you now. But we're starting to see results from this. And I think Lisa brought along some packets of some of the materials that have been sent out. We'll just circulate those around. Try to look at the consistency of the color scheme, the fonts that are used, the design array, the look, the inexplicable communication that comes across just from the look of the pieces.
And what I want to say here is that we are still in the middle of this. So there are some of our flyers that don't have the brand, they don't have the look yet. And as you're going through there, I included some of those so that you can see what it looks like. You can see the differences between something that I just created on a Word document, which 5 years ago I thought was pretty darn snazzy, and now something that's actually professional, and it was sufficient. It had all the right information. It had our logo, which even that took us a couple of years to realize. Put your logo on every piece of paper. I don't know why that never occurred to us before. So as you're going through, you'll start to see. We also have a couple of different brands depending on the different program. Like our preschool. Our preschool has its very own logo. It has its own brand. It has its own look. Our recreational classes and our non-class programs also have a very similar look, a very similar brand. So
that's worth noting. When you have a program that you think is distinctive and stands out, put a brochure together on it, take your basic look and modify it to reflect the values of that program. And then you can promote it specifically and distinctly from another program. As you get bigger, you're going to have a lot of programs jumbled together. You want the customer to be able to sort through and get to the program that she is interested in quickly. So, let's get started here. Now we've done all that. But I urge you to pay up for a designer. Again, you don't have to hire somebody on staff. You have Craigslist. You have temporary agencies are great about this. They have lots of people looking for design work. And if you have a design institute in the area, and I think Vancouver does, you may even be able to find students willing to work on this issue. So colleges and universities are potential places to find designers. And having worked now with our designer, Jen Hobbs, I would, if you possibly can, find somebody with a really good portfolio. Ask them to bring all the design work that they've done so you can see that. And you can make an estimate of whether they have been able to work with a variety of different clients and come up with what the client wanted. A construction company, a bank, a fast food joint, a gymnastics program. They are willing to listen. Because if your designer has Sergeant Rise and just wants to design one thing because that's her, then she's not hearing you, and then you are going to be the conduit from the customer to her. So, first of all, start off with a font. You know, there are thousands and thousands of fonts, but you want to find one out of those thousands that you think captures a look that you like. We're going to put together a font, a color, a design, and a palette of colors, sorry, I should have started with that captures you. And you're not going to be able to say this explicitly, at least I've never been able to. Maybe you can, but you will know it when you see it. So find 3 to 5 that you think are attractive to you. You're the person, you're designer, actually. Let's say it that way. You're the person who has a message to get out. So this font, you want it to help you. And see if you can incorporate it into your logo. Because that's often the first thing and the easiest thing to think about. This was originally this hand wasn't here, the ring and the hand wasn't here. It was just this girl, Kathy Wrigley, and Seattle Gymnastics Academy. But notice the font. You'd have a tough time finding that font even in today, because that is Pino bold. We liked the fact that it was distinctive, number one, but it was clean. It didn't have a lot of serifs on it to distract attention, and we wanted clean gymnastics. We wanted the form of the gymnast and the idea of progressing, the whole idea of clean, ideal form captured in our font. And we just by accident made this decision 27 years ago with a designer who was one of our parents. So that is still with us, and it's held up all this time. And that lastingness is something you want to shoot for, because once you start putting your brand out there, you don't want to change it. You want people to get to know it. When they think about Delta Gymnastics, they think about, I don't know where your font is. There it is. Yeah, they think about that. They remember this image. And to them, it's not text, it's an image. Remember that media, remember that old phrase, the media is the message, or your image is the message. What we're doing with this design work is talking about images, pictures.
And that's something else I'll include. You know, if you've got your brand or your image on shirts, even if you have no words, if a family sees that a child has got the SGA shirt on, they're going to recognize it immediately as an SGA shirt, not just as a shirt that they could get at Target or anywhere else. They're going to immediately understand that that's an SGA shirt. And I think that's really important.
So here's an image of that argument. Here we have the word gymnastics, but clearly the text is secondary. The letters are secondary. Each one of these is a gymnast in a position. And we want to convey gymnastics. So treat the text as an image. Kind of write that down. Treat the text as an image. Because you're not really looking at the text itself. You're trying to create an impression. Just as when you dress, you don't talk about or think about they call the particular article, outside of the entire ensemble. And here we're looking for an entire ensemble. Here's one, this is really nice. They've managed to incorporate the text, but they've captured the rhythmic ethics. Elegance, grace, in a nice font. But we're going to look at the font as a matter of reflecting the image. Here's a really awful logo. Don't feel cocky, because here's another one.
Next.
Flow block. You know, it just says discontinuity. And so I'm afraid we set a bad example here. Who knows what this guy is or what he's doing, or if he's even a guy or a person. But again, just blocking nothing being said here in the image. Somewhat that's my opinion. Now here's a beautiful. This was our original one. We just wanted the grace of Kathy Rigby, who had a difficult skill, and also the cleanliness of the text. Not to say Gymnastics Academy is great text, it's just done. So, I'm going to take off a little break here and go through the process that Jen put us through to explore our brand a little bit. So, bear with me for 1 second. Okay, so what she wanted us to do was think through the color palette, the font, and the arrangements of every piece that we do. So she started off with this, and she wanted what she called a kinetic logo mark. So, you know, we had a static logo mark, that scale, Kathy, and the static text. She wanted something to convey the action of gymnastics. So she said, we're first going to pick a color palette, and then we'll pick a direction. I think she was just saying, John, we're going to have to change the logo. We need a direction to do that. And then we will try collateral. This says test applications on collateral. Collateral is all that stuff you have there. Also called customer contact materials. Anything the customer sees or can pick up is customer contact material. Oops. So, here's what's called a color palette. And you may think, actually, there's not much difference between these things. But when you consider that one of these color palettes has to exist on something color like this, or in 15 different pieces of printed material, or show up on a website, or show up in pictures, be printed on banners. In other words, in a lot of different settings, you want a setting of colors that can handle that variety of locations. And just think about all the different places your logo, your print job end up. So I think, I'd just be curious because I didn't get my way on this one. How many people would pick palette number 1? Nobody. Okay, we have one person, one advocate. And palette number 2. Okay, we have 2 advocates. Palette number 3. Oh, a lot of people. 4. Palette number 5. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, that's the one I wanted. But everybody else wanted palette number 2. So we're going to see that John didn't get his way on this one. Okay, so in using that, she wanted to take the black and white logo that John had used for 25 years and add color to it. And use the color to explore different options in what she calls the sub-brand family. Sub-brand is the programs. There's Seattle Gymnastics, the whole thing. And then there's the boys program, there's the team program, there's the development program, there's the program and that program. All other sub-brands have a chance to use a different version of the Kinetic logo. So here's what her idea was for just the black and white version of Kinetic logos. So you notice the font has changed. Now it's got serifs, more complicated, but it suddenly has activity attached to it. Ideally, if we had further down the line, the next step she's working on now is adding color to all of these elements. Color from our palette. Not other colors, not just colors that seem to work well, but colors from the palette so that it's consistent wherever the customer runs across it. Okay. And this is her second attempt at it. So a different font again, but now two skills. And this is the one that I didn't like at all. She argued, and I was just going to ask you guys what your opinion is. She said, this is for preschool. They're not going to be pointing their toes. They're not going to be having curvy shape. Shouldn't we show what preschoolers look like? What's your thought?
I think everybody can do that, not everybody can do the other one, so that one appeals to a wider audience. Not everybody can do it, but it's achievable.
Yeah. So look at this guy. He's not pointing his toes. So we are having a big debate right now about whether we should show perfect form or whether we should show reality. These things.
Question.
Huh?
For something like that, would you use images, like picture figures, so to speak, or would you read like actual people, like silhouettes of actual people, as opposed to, like those don't really seem like real people.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Maybe the forward somersault one, but the rest of them don't really seem like real people.
Well, remember we used Kathy Rigby on the very first original logo. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
Because it caught all the ripples and fluidity of the body. These look stilted to me somehow. But you see the
So
questions
what would
are
you do? Would you use like a image, or would you use a picture?
you can take an image and outline it and create a rich thing. You can do that. I would prefer that. But you see how you're starting to focus in on how the image changes the message. You know, do we really want to say our gymnastics is just kind of flopping around?
But you said there's your club brands, and then each program has some sort of insignia. So depending on the class that it's intended for, that would go with a certain group, right? That would be your overall club logo, or is that what you're looking for, your overall club?
Well, she thinks this is the consistency for the whole club. But for Columbia City, they have these two things. They're different here. I'm not sure I buy that. Because now you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, well, she has 6 different logos out there. I don't think that's a consistent message to the customer. McDonald's has one. They can speak to millions of people. But these are the great questions to bring up. Because somehow you have to deal with something that's almost inexplicable. Here's another example. And a professional can give you all these choices. Somebody who is experienced, has worked with many clients, will listen to you and come back with choices. And really that's what you need, because as you go through the choices, sooner or later you're going to go, whoa, there it is. That's what I've been looking for. And then you'll have your wow factor. So here, all the skill stuff has been hidden in the text. What's your reaction to that?
Well, very subtle. I think most people didn't even notice they were in there.
Is that right? Nobody noticed that they were in there? What did you notice first? Yeah. Here's another tip. Well, I'll give her this, we're consistent on SGA. But these things change by site. Yeah. So I'm not hearing anybody say, wow. Yeah. You have to be willing to have some fun with this and work with your designers back and forth. And that's as far as she's done. She hasn't come back. I think when we sat down and couldn't come to any agreement on anything other than the color palette, and didn't like any of these, she went back to the drawing boards to come up with other alternatives. So that's what's coming up for us next.
Gymnastics PC went through the branding for play brands, and there's a bunch of us that are in the different zones that all have part of that, and it's quite interesting to take it from the beginning right to the mascot at the end, right? Like,
Oh,
all the way through.
so you've been through this.
Well, Gymnastics PC did, I don't know if all the clubs did it, but I know you were on the, and there was a number of us representing from all the different zones that were on the committee that dealt with it with Gymnastics PC. And it was a year process anyway, and maybe even more than that. But now it's to the point where you get the package, it's the poster, the certificate, it's order the mascot and have your competition and we run
Hey, you guys are branded better than we are. So
Well, it was
why did they ask
Gymnastics PC,
about that?
it wasn't each club, it
Oh.
was just for Gymnastics PC, it
Oh,
was for the province.
for the whole
right?
province.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and there was representatives from some of the zones.
Well,
but
that was an invaluable experience.
Great, it's a great
And
thing.
you can apply that exact process to yourself.
And that's available to all the clubs. All the clubs can use that Gymnastics PC Play logo, put their club name on it, use it as the posters, the certificates, the newsletters, it's coloring sheets, it's the whole package in it. And it's,
Do they include the palette, the color palettes to use, like the Pantone colors and all this and that?
yeah.
Wow, wonderful. They're in great shape. So this is my idea of a color palette. I want something bright, something that leaps off the page, leaps off the monitor of your computer, grabs you from the screen of your phone, gets your attention. But this is what they're working on. But don't you think this would be fun? It is. It's, children are basically primary color people. And the brighter the better for them. We had a big battle in our gym because when black was the fashion, the instructors wanted to wear black on the floor. You just could not see a children's facility with black as the theme. So we banned black and gray from the gym, thank the Lord. And now people wear the new vibrant colors that are coming out. That's really nice. So on those things that we passed around, you can see the palette starting to take shape. We haven't changed the logo yet. We're still battling about that. But we have started to show some shapes that we think are halfway acceptable. And we're still pushing for the progressive book, the actual skills book, not just the recreational clean yourself through a cartwheel. Does anybody have collateral materials like this? This happens to be a banner that hangs in the Boys and Girls Club. Like collateral materials would be a banner or a... So do you have a logo on that or anything else like this kind of stuff? Logo, website? Just the logo? Yeah, we always put the website and phone number in when we want you to talk. Q codes. Who uses Q codes? Was that hard to do? We haven't done that.
Do we have it on all of our
And do you have any feedback on
I
that?
just personally, I just started there like 8 weeks ago, so I haven't gotten it because I was like how we use that and what have you. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. If anybody uses it at all, I haven't scanned it myself. A QR
Everybody
code.
knows what a Q code is?
It's actually a QR code.
So, in the middle of all of this, while you're working with the designer, also talk to your customers. So, you, and especially your registrar, can tell you what is most important to them. And it's usually fairly straightforward. We want a clean place, we want a fun place, a safe place, orderly, preferably not nobody flinging themselves around and hurting themselves. And we'd like some success in our program. We try to listen with Lisa and her people. We do that $5 for your opinion card I talked about earlier. And bleacher chat. So I'm the biggest proponent of this. I just go out and sit down in the bleachers, and I don't just go grab a mom and start talking to her. I just sit there and listen for a while until I hear what people are talking about. And I join the conversation. You don't want, I don't like to fill out surveys myself, so I don't hand them the survey here, fill this out. But, you know, if there's an issue I'm thinking about, as the conversation goes along, I'll bring it up. You know, we're thinking about not having boys anymore. You know, what's the reaction? Or, you know, we'd like to move to a new site. Oh, where? We need a new gym. You know, this kind of thing. You can talk to your customers informally and get a real sense of the issues in their mind.
Yes.
Not necessarily who likes, how many like this and how many like that. You don't need that. What you need is what are the issues that they are concerned about. Do they like the current gym? Is it close to their house? Whatever. Traffic, you name it. Is it just too small or too big? Or whatever. Are the instructors nice or are they nasty? So I recommend bleacher chat. And if you have a chance, do some of that. But the point is, you're going to take this and send that chat to your designer. Somehow you have to capture what you hear, what the registrars hear, and write it down. You can talk as well. That's even better. Ideally, your designer goes out and sits in the bleachers and gets a sense of what the customer is looking for when they're shopping for you. And if she does, that's the best. But if she doesn't, you have to capture what the customer said and bring it to her. I'm saying her because Jen, our designer, literally wearing the SGA logo, the thing, can take that and put it into the image of you that she's creating to put on all your collateral material. And that's your brand. That's what we're after here. So have her chat if she can. She actually happens to be a mom and an instructor, so she talks to parents all the time. That's ideal. I mean, you won't get that all the time, but you can invite the designer to come to the gym and talk to the parents, or sit in the bleachers and chat with them. Once she starts producing stuff like she did there, she's going to have a lot of alternatives for you. Don't be afraid to say, I don't like any of those. Yeah, nothing's moving me here. Come on, the time's clicking. We need more ideas. That's her job, ideas. She's supposed to come up with ideas. So you get to say, no. But when you see it, when you get a slam dunk in front of you, you'll feel, whoa, that's great. That's us. That's what we want to look like. That's what we want to look like. So, in Seattle, anywhere from $20 to $50 an hour for your designer. And I've found that they don't overbill you. They actually bill you for what they work. And most of their work is at home, on the computer, trying to adjust this color and move this thing over there and just like that. They're really pretty scrupulous, at least the ones I've hired. And I've gotten them from temp agencies, like I said, Craigslist, everywhere else. Do you folks, are you in the areas where you could find designers? Oh, okay. I see everybody shaking here. Good. Wonderful. By the way, that's a great question for staff, for site location, staffing.
Yeah, just to suggest, another thing we do is on our registration form,
we have a little section on the bottom for what do parents do. So they kind of put their profession or what field they're in, and you can kind of tap into, so you might as well pay, you know, the company that's attached to your club and go on paying the competition to go, right? So keep it in-house, but if you have some idea what your parents' occupations are, who they work for, and you need something, you need to go to the company. Sometimes they give you a break, sometimes they don't, but at least you're giving work to your parents, their membership, as opposed to going member. And in a small local town, that's big.
It is. Team parents have the best relationship, team coaches have the best knowledge of what the parents do, because they talk to their parents more than the rec coaches do. And so usually, people who pop up, like, we had a consulting engineer show up the other day to help us with the zoning problem. Who knew? But there he was, one of our team parents. So it's not like we don't use team parents, it's just we're careful about it.
We burn them out though, because we keep going, because we see them in the gym more, we know them more, we keep burning on our same competitive parents. Whereas our rec numbers, if you look at the pyramid, the bulk is the rec numbers. We have more people to pull from there than we do these same people we keep going to on the competitive.
When you say
Did you know what
going
your
to,
reps
what are you
were?
asking them to do?
Ask them what they do on the
Yeah, on the
recreation.
registration form and on the bottom, it says what you do or what you help with, and people tick things, sometimes they don't tick anything, and they say where they work or what you do. Or do you have
Do you have your recreational,
or
really, just as a
experience?
recreational?
It's optional, they don't fill it out, that's fine, but everybody fills it out.
When you say you burn out
Marketing for them too.
team parents, how often are you using them?
Oh, we burn them all the time, but we make the same mistakes.
Well, they have very requirements. They have to hear because it's a not-for-profit. They have to do parent hours in lieu of part of the fees.
Oh, in lieu of fees.
Well, I mean, they cover down the reduced fees that they pay as accredited families. So most clubs have parent participation hours. So it's a whole another.
Gee, I'm going to be, I hope I'm not wasting your time with our approach. At any rate, once you've got all that, all your contact materials. Jen's jacket's a good example. We want every instructor to have the logo on their body when they're seen by a customer. The customer should always see that material, that logo, whenever they're talking to a staffer. So they don't get to come in and, oh, I feel like black today, I want to wear my black sweatshirt. No, they've got to have this visible to the customer. So we put it on these posters. This is a logo that came up for just the preschool program, which we're not really talking about today. This is an example. All these things that Lisa pointed out earlier, golden boards. I wonder if that's yeah, look at this. It's on the mat. See? I was going to put it on right there, right here. So, just to summarize, font, color, image, logo, then everything. Now, in the old days, you'd be using this on display ads in the paper, in your yellow pages, all those things we hardly use anymore. Where are you going to put it now? Facebook, Google Maps, your website, every page of your website, so that everything is identified to you. And as closely as you folks are together, you definitely want to put some attention to this so that you are distinctive in the market and your images portray your credibility in the market. Any questions? Okay, so now we're going to go talk about. Oh, let's remember, this is out of 3. Give me a second to regroup here. Nuts and bolts of registration.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah. Do people need 5 seconds, or are they ready? Should we just go right ahead?
Okay, do we need a bathroom break or anything? No. Okay. I'm going to ask Barb to chime in as you see fit. Again, I am the director of registrars. However, when I first started 7 years ago, that was Barb's position. And so she's been a registrar for, we're not going to give a year, but a long time. So please feel free to chime in. One of the first things that we're going to talk about, so you've gotten the customer in the door, now what, right? You've gone through Google AdWords, you've done word of mouth, you've got the customer in. Now it's all about how do you communicate with your customer. As you heard in the practice call that Sweeney and I did, there are a couple of things that you want to ask the parent specifically. You want to know, do you already know what type of a project or what type of a program you're interested in? What's the personality of your child, the age of your child, and the skill of your child? Those are the big key questions because then you can start to really tailor what information. For us, we have got 200, 300, 400 classes that we run a week. I don't know, something astronomical. Plus all of our birthday parties, camps, parents night out, all of it. So we need to be able to figure out what are they actually looking for. A lot of the times the parents have no idea. All they know is that their kid's best friend in school does gymnastics and their kid wants to do gymnastics too. Cool, but now we need to figure out how are they going to be successful in what they're doing. By talking to them about the age and the skill of the child, that's so important because of course they're going to say that their child is amazing, of course. And of course the 4-year-old should be in with the 6-year-olds because again, they're amazing. But are they really amazing? And are they really going to be successful if they're in the class with a bunch of older kids? Or if are they in a class with a bunch of kids that are higher skilled than they are? You don't want the kid to feel like they are not good enough, or that they are stupid, or young, or weak, or whatever. You really want them to feel successful in the classes. So really trying to find out with the parent what they're looking for and what their child's age and skill level are going to be really helpful. We break down all of our classes by age and by skill, and so we can really make sure that we're putting the kids in a class that's going to be appropriate for them. We also talk about the personality of the child. You know, in that phone call that Sweeney and I did that was actually quite fun. All of the coaches are in the background looking at us as we're recording this. It was kind of fun. But we are able to figure out what is the appropriate coach. We kind of go back and forth on whether or not to sell the coach themselves or to sell the gymnastics. We want the gymnastics to be the most important thing. We don't want convenience for the parent to be the most important thing. But in that gymnastics aspect that we want to be the most important thing that we're going to sell to the parents, we do have multiple coaches that are going to be teaching every level. So helping them find which coaches are going to be the best suited for their child is going to be really important for you guys in the long run.
So at this point, I was going to ask you folks, tell me what the preschool levels are.
We have a baby and me class, which is 6 months to 12 months. We have Tykes, which is 12 months to 18 months. And we have Parent and Talk, which is 18 months to 3 years. All of those classes are parent participation, of course. And they're all working on gross motor skills. Depending on what they're doing. Sometimes the kids are rolling, crawling, taking their first steps, learning how to jump on the trampoline. We really try and tailor it to each child. And because each child does have a parent in the class, it allows the coach to be able to spend a little more one-on-one time with each child individually while the other kids are with their parents. We also have Bees, which is our 2.5 to 3-year-old class. That's the first class without mom or dad. And they have to be 2.5 before you start that class. We also ask that they have done a Parent and Talk class before. We want them to have some knowledge of what the gym is like, of what the rotations are like, of who the coaches are, of how loud it can be in the gym. If the child is almost 3, then we will let them come in and do a trial class into the Bees without doing a Parent and Talk class. Next, we have Trompers, which is 3 and 4-year-olds. And then we have Kinders, which are just 4-year-olds. The reason we offer both of those options, and these are all 45-minute classes, by the way. The reason we offer both of those options are because 3-year-olds obviously need to be in with 3-year-olds, but people who are young for or who have never done an activity outside of mom or dad before might do better in with the 3-year-olds. The 4-year-olds who have been doing soccer and ballet and gymnastics and have been in daycare, they're pretty good. They're able to follow directions well enough that we can move through the skills that we're learning just a little bit faster in the Tinders class. And then lastly, we have a prep class that is for 5-year-olds only. It's also girls only. It's an hour long, and they're going to start working really on the USAG recreational progressions. So learning how to do handstands and cartwheels. In all of our preschool age classes, they're still working on those skills, but they're learning, a monkey jump. They're learning wall walker handstands. They're not really putting those into real gymnastic skills. Other questions about classes?
I just want to give you a sense of
So do you have a 5-year-old just boys class?
We do. So when they're 3, we have a boys tromper class. Same type of skills that are going to be in our co-ed tromper class, but of course it's going to be boys only. They'll be 3 and 4. They're going to start working on the rings, the pommel horse, the parallel bars, trampolines, of course. Once they are 5, then we have a boys only class. It's called Sparks. Again, similar to the prep, but for boys only. So typically by 5, they're now separated for the duration.
And what about they're coming into your gym on each side?
Sparks is still a beginner class. All of those classes are considered to be beginner. So whether or not you have somebody who is brand new or somebody that's been coming up through the different classes, they're also going to be working on a monkey jump. We just might expect that because our ratio is so small, that the child that's been coming up through the ranks might be able to do a monkey jump a little bit better than the child who's brand new. The next thing, hi.
You can sit here.
The next thing I want to talk about is what type of a program you are. Obviously, a lot of smaller gyms here. Did I hear that everybody here is nonprofit?
No.
Some are, some aren't. Okay, so I have worked for both. I have worked for nonprofit and I have worked for a for-profit company. My own personal experience is the nonprofit has a tougher time. You have to find a way to get money into your gym. You have to find whatever grants you're using, however you personally go about it. The people that are for-profit are able typically to stick around a little bit longer. They have a larger base. They have a longer lifespan. They're able to have more kids in their gym. They're able to spend the money to train their coaches to be able to keep that retention going. So,
I think she's got opposite.
Yeah.
what?
I think it's completely opposite.
Totally
opposite. Well, non-profit has a much longer life than for profit.
Well, that's good. That's not my experience, but I'm glad that you guys have a good experience with it.
And you're saying a larger base.
Why would a for-profit typically higher cost? Because the non-profit get grants funding from the government and stuff that for-profits don't get.
Oh, this is the difference between Canada and the States.
Yeah.
There's no funding for,
I mean, my gaming grant's $30,000 a year. That is for profit.
you get a grant? That's a different world.
My experience is totally opposite.
Yeah. Follow the money.
Yeah, however you gotta do it. One of the things that we have found as a for-profit company is it is more expensive. We do charge more money, but there's a value and a benefit to what we're doing, and we want to instill that into our families. We want to be able to show them the benefits of what we're doing, how it's going to affect their children in the long run. We are able to give professionally trained instructors a chance to be out on the floor. Some of the smaller gyms, you're not really able to spend a lot of time training your staff as well as you like. Up here might be a little bit different, but I know down in the States, we have a harder time finding coaches to stick around and be professionally trained if we can't pay them a decent wage. If we can't pay them a decent wage, we can't get kids in the gym. So.
And just to elaborate on that, I think the people that we've competed with in the past, have all been private. The only public gymnastics program is up in Edmonds, and it has 2 rooms that are about this size, with a wall down the middle. The uneven bars is right about where you're sitting, and the ceiling's about that high. There's just no money going in the public sector to sports. So we're always competing with private people, and they have to pay full rent. They have to pay all the taxes on the business that they run. They have to pay for their staffing and their benefits. So they charge them, and they have to come up with something that people are willing to pay for in order to pay those expenses.
Absolutely.
So that's gonna color everything you're gonna hear.
Talking about our policies, we have some very specific policies that we follow for our company that have worked really well for us over the last 28 years that we've been here. The first one is a somewhat newer policy: you pay before you play. I know when Barb first was there was not such a policy. We would roll the classes over, we would do a monthly registration, and then you'd have to track down families and try and convince them to pay. I don't want to be a bill collector. I think we talked about that. I'm not interested. So we have a policy where you sign up and you pay. Once you sign up and you pay, now your spot is guaranteed and nobody's going to take that spot from you. Even if you are on vacation for 6 weeks, that's okay. Still your spot. You've paid for it. We also don't do any single class drop-ins. For example, if a class has space available, we do not allow people just to come in and pay for just that one class. They can do the risk-free trial, absolutely. But we want to prohibit people from coming in and dropping in on a Monday class one week, and a Friday class the next week, and a Tuesday class the next week. Yes, we'd still make money. We'd still charge them. We could do that, but we find it to be really disruptive in the classes. And so we really want to try and keep some continuity in our classes. We also do not offer any credits or refunds. The policy with that is we are making a commitment to you to run the class, and we're looking to you guys to make a commitment to us to come to the class, to stay enrolled in the class. One of our core principles is perseverance, being able to take a correction, pick yourself up, try again. The no credits or refund thing is actually kind of a great way to teach that. You know, just because a child may feel upset about their coach or may feel upset because they're not able to get a skill, you still have to stick out the session. You made a commitment to do this, so now you're in. You don't have to sign up for any additional sessions if you don't like, but you did make a commitment to finish up this session. The other thing that's really great about that is if you as the coach are able to turn that child around or turn that parent around, you know, they were having 3 weeks where they just hated gymnastics, they didn't want to come, if you can help them remember how great they are and what they're doing is good, that they're skilled at the gymnastics, or whatever the case may be, you've just made a sale for life. If you can turn that around, the parents will love you guys forever, truly.
Let me just elaborate on that. When we were about 700 people, 700 gymnasts, we noticed that a lot of people would sign up for classes and then cancel them. So what it really was an element of convenience for the mom. Oh, I'll sign up for this Tuesday gymnastics class, but if I can get into the soccer thing, then I will cancel this and go here. So pretty soon you find yourself adjusting for the schedules of 700 to 1,500 moms. And you can't do that, even if you want to get bigger. So you have to bring them to the point of sale and say, you're committed now. And if you listen to her, the last thing the registrar says before they push the button is, now there are no credits or refunds when we pay. How do you say that?
There are no credits or refunds, but if you do need to change days or times, you're more than welcome to do so as long as there's space available. So we do allow for transfers within the session, again, as long as there's space available.
How early is your registration prior to the next session?
About a month to 6 weeks, depending on how the sessions fall for holidays and everything.
So after, like, when we register at that time, there's no refunds?
Not at all.
Just changing dates and times?
Yeah.
How long are your specials and how long do you get?
We do 13-week sessions during the school year. So we do 3 13-week sessions, and then we also do a monthly summer sessions, which is either 7 or 8 weeks, and we'll go into a little bit more about that.
What was your question? So you have the free trial. So if you have a class with 8 kids in it, the trial, is that a person who's in that class then?
Yes, they have to be one of the numbers. So if we only allow 8 kids in our classes, if the class has got 8 kids, there's no room for a trial. So they would have to find a day or time.
If I'm saying I want to sign up for a trial, then they wouldn't be paying for
That first class.
that first class until you've already started your session. So do you find you lose kids because they come do the trial and then they leave, and then you only have 7 kids left in the class?
Typically not, because we really only book the trials 2 or 3 days before the class, right? So if they come in, they call me on Monday, they want to do a trial class on Wednesday. We enroll them in the trial class. Now, we always tell them, you have to call us either the night before or the morning of, because if somebody calls and wants to pay and take that spot, they get priority. You haven't paid for anything, and I have no guarantee that you're going to enroll in this class. So if I can get somebody to come in and pay for the spot, you get it, or that person gets it, and you don't have to find another trial. Now, we do, as one of our jobs before we go home every night, is we look at the trials for the next day. So we try and catch them double. We ask the parents to call us to check in the day before the trial or the morning of the trial. And then we also do it the night before, just to make sure there's still space available.
And you don't find that a little bit labor intensive for your staffing in terms of managing that?
No, studio director has a report that's about 3 buttons, and it pulls up all of the trials for the next day. And then you can just click into each class and see if there's space. So I mean, maybe it takes me 4 minutes. Yeah, we really only have 4 or 5 trials a day. We call it a risk-free trial. If you choose not to sign up for that class, your trial class is free. If you do choose to sign up for it, then we backdate it so that we charge you for the trial. So if you happen to do the trial the first week of the session, you are now paying for the entire session. And we do ask that you pay from the day that you sign up until the end of the session. Yeah.
You would prorate it if they registered late in the session.
Absolutely.
Is it prorated per class, or is it a percentage, or?
It's per class.
Okay.
And it's only prorated for the classes you've missed in the past. So if you know that you can sign up in the beginning, you know you can be there for the first 8 weeks and then you're moving, sorry. You can either, we're not going to drop you halfway through and then try and resell your spot.
And you have ongoing registration for the whole session, and you take them on, but you won't prorate them if they.
I'm sorry, say that again about taking
Well,
them.
I thought you said at one point that your registration is ongoing through the session.
We allow you to sign up at any point during the session, and you would pay from now until the end of the session.
But if somebody's leaving, and they give you 8 weeks notice that we're moving in 8 weeks, you don't.
Absolutely
Saw that
not.
spot.
You are paid from now until the end of the session. We've committed that spot to you for the entire time. Yeah.
Hi, I'm curious of your 3 13-week sessions.
Yeah.
Do you start your second, well, I'll call it second session, mid-December?
Typically beginning December. And then we'll go
And then you
for-
break over Christmas?
Do 2 or 3 weeks, and then we'll take a
And
break
then
for
you
2
break
weeks.
at spring break too, or?
Yep, we take a week. So the 13 weeks is 13 weeks worth of classes. So
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
happens to be, a 17-week session because we've got 2 weeks of Christmas,
Yeah.
but they only pay for 13 weeks worth.
Because we've always struggled with that because we do a fall, winter, spring. And so, fall is usually, could be longer, and we could end up with a week of like no classes.
Absolutely.
Which isn't very,
So we had that problem when we switched to 2 20-week sessions.
That's what we
And
do.
it actually decreases your administration time for registration.
And it works out almost perfectly.
Yeah, because
And staffs.
they finish the end of January and they start February, and you don't have that crunch at Christmas time for
Put out more money.
putting out more money.
Or tracking the people down and getting them.
Well,
And then we would fit our 10-week preschool fit within those 20 weeks. So if you're in a preschool class that's running 10 weeks, 2 of those finish the same time as the 20 weeks. So if you've got a kid in a 20-week, you can get your other one into the 10 weeks back to back, and they all finish at the same time, making it easier for the parents.
It also works with the Jumpstart funding cycle. The Jumpstart funding is 6
Oh, yeah.
months, 6 months, so if you have a family that's funded on Jumpstart, it follows those sessions perfectly.
so, yeah.
Do you issue, I'm assuming, report cards at the end of every 13 weeks? How do you handle that?
I
if
should have
someone-
earlier than that, probably 10.
What if someone signs up at week 8 or week 9? Do you have a cutoff, or how do you?
No, just based on however many skills that the coach has been able to see. And it's all through our studio director. We do it right before registration happens. So they get a progress report right before registration that tells them, here are kind of the base skills that your child has been able to accomplish, and here is the level that they should be signing up for the next session. And then right at the very end of the session, they get a more comprehensive one that's actually emailed to them that has every single skill that they've been working on, whether or not they've completed it, what things they're still working on, what things they might need to do in order to complete the skill. Yeah.
I'm wondering if your policies are the same for competitive.
Yes and no. So our competitive, they pay monthly. We, in our gym, we have anybody that comes more than 6 hours a week pays on a monthly basis. So if they choose to drop out, then they have to pay until the end of the month, and then the next month forward, they don't have to pay anymore. Now, the competition fees are a little bit different, and we take on a case-by-case basis. The last big policy that we have,
Can I ask,
yeah.
how do you folks charge your competitive people?
Pretty much the same.
A one-year contract?
Or they're on a yearly thing.
They can pay up front for a
Yeah.
discount if they pay up a year in advance.
Yeah.
They pay monthly.
They pay like an auto debit, we take it out of their account.
And we have something
If
similar.
they withdraw, they have to give us two months notice.
But they can break the contract halfway through the season.
They have to break it before March 1st to get out. And they'll hold it for 2 more months and then they're out. If it's after March 1st, they're committed for the rest of the year.
And you're running from September to August.
For the competitive, they're moving, they're relocating, they have an injury with the doctor's note. And the third case, school.
School.
That's
Relocation.
the only.
But they pay us
So for us, we do offer a credit or a refund if there is an injury. But again, that has to be a doctor's note. So once we get that doctor's note, we dock them of the date that we get the doctor's note, and then they can have their choice of either having their credit or a refund. Either one is just fine. But the last policy I wanted to cover is that we have 4 gyms. So it's really important to us that all of our gyms carry the exact same policies at every location. You know, our Ballard gym might have a tramp and tumbling class. Our Columbia City gym might have rhythmics. We may not all offer different types of programming, but all of our policies are the same. And if we have a STARS class at one location, it's going to be the same at every single gym. The reason we do that is because our gyms are not terribly far apart from each other. So if there's a family that goes and takes classes at Columbia City and does Parents' Night Out in Ballard and comes to birthday parties in Lake City, we want to make sure that all of our policies are going to be the same everywhere they go. We particularly don't want to hear from, from a parent, well, Ballard says that I can have a refund whenever I want. We don't want to go there. We want to try and keep it consistent.
With having multiple locations, I'm assuming like registration-wise, they all are one, like as far as the system, registration
Unfortunately
system?
not. Each of our locations has their own registration system, has their own studio director page. Now we, as a registrar, have the capabilities to log in to anyone because it's all web-based. You just log in with your name and password. And we do sign up for the other gyms a little bit, so we try to help each other out as much as possible. That is one of the things that we're trying to figure out. How can we put all of our locations onto one site? The issue becomes now, and actually, this is what studio director looks like. Just briefly, across the bottom here are a bunch of tabs. Each one of these tabs houses classes that look like this. It's a lot of information. Each one of these is a different class that you can click on. If we had, this is just for our location. So if we were trying to have 3 other gyms, well actually our 2 Lake City gyms are on one. But if we were trying to have 2 other gyms, every gym has this many tabs. It becomes horribly difficult. And then we can't figure out how to do things like the deposit. The deposit's going to be different at every single location, right? Because every location is taking cash and checks. But if it's on one page, it's only one deposit. So how do we rectify that? Eventually, it would be amazing if we could all be on the same one, but so far, I don't see how that's going to happen.
Really, the only problem is transferring people from one to another.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
You end
getting
up
at, like how do
sometimes, some
you?
parents have one child in Lake City and another child in Ballard, and yet they expect one single bill. They're not happy with having 2 bills.
And we give a discount the more hours a week that you go, the less expensive each hour becomes. Now that's company-wide. So if you take a 1-hour class in Columbia City and a 1-hour class in Lake City, you're gonna get a discounted rate. But each studio director is separate. So each one's gonna try and charge the full amount. So now we have to go in and do math and try and figure out how to separate the discount so that one gym's not taking the discount hit more than the other.
What's your base salary, your base rate for a recreational?
Per hour.
Per hour. $15 an hour for our 45-minute classes and $17.75 for our 1-hour classes.
How does that compare to up here?
We're $10 an hour, more.
Huh?
We're $10 an hour. And then the slide scale goes after 4 hours.
You're 15 an hour? Yeah.
How many people are in the $10 an hour range? How about $12 an hour? 15? Oh, good. 17? If you really want to be astounded, go price the gyms in San Francisco. They're in the mid-20s.
Well, you're competing against sauna down the road, it's $35 a year.
I know. Well, we have
Can't
the
go out
same
your market
issue.
either.
Yeah, we've got soccer, basketball, you name it.
We were talking about how you have clinic sessions? Yeah, so how do you manage that? Do you provide, require prepayment for your classes, or do you do a monthly? You do, and so, what's your $10 an hour, right? So
Yeah.
what was left? $200 or
360 typically.
360, okay. You didn't have a problem with parents signing up for that long?
This is our first year that we switched over, and we found they all thought that our prices went up, and we had to say, no, the session got longer, so you're doing 3 sessions a year instead of 3. And then we offered them an option, they could split it to a post-date check, so we could have it in 2 payments, or they could go on monthly.
Okay, and so they started to like it, the fact that it's less registration, so it's
And they're not trying to catch that Christmas
Yes.
registration, that Christmas money. We don't know if we're rehiring our coaches, if they got work January and they're away for holidays. It just was a hassle.
And we don't have too many issues with the Christmas aspect of it because we do our registration beforehand. So our session, our fall session ends end of November, beginning of December.
But that's when
That
people are
is-
spending money on Christmas.
But for us, we do our registration beginning of November. So for us, we back it out just enough that we don't have too many issues. I mean, there's always going to be some families that can't.
But your school year starts earlier than ours does, I think.
In
You're in
August.
August, right? We don't start till
So what
after Labor Day.
And we love that because we do have a huge rush of enrollment in September, or in August, right, before classes start. But only about half of our kids sign up. The other half of our kids for fall start after Labor Day. After their school has started, after they've figured out, can they handle doing 2nd grade? They've never done 2nd grade before. It's a huge new change, whatever. And so we get another big, well, you'll be surprised. But we get another really good boost after Labor Day. Yeah.
Lisa, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I had mentioned to John about I know you guys do sessional,
Yeah.
but a lot of clubs in the States do this monthly, like pay for the year and drop off, let us know a month in advance if you're gonna drop out, and then they fill us out. I remember going to Region 1 conferences a number of years ago, and they were going, how would that ever work? But we thought more about it and see more pros and cons to both of them. And, I mean, obviously you're not doing it, but you must know clubs. There are clubs in the Seattle area that are doing it that way, or?
We are.
Sure,
Yeah, like Gymnastics, we do mine.
Yeah.
They sign up for the whole, they sign up until they're done. They just keep going. They take a monthly fee. It's automatically debited out of their account via PAD or the auto charge on iClass Pro. They get a 1-month withdrawal, and then they're done and they drop. It's kept for spring enrollment. This is for sure we've done it, but when I compare numbers to last April, we are getting 200 plus more, and hopefully we'll continue that over the summer. I know Rory does it at Kerrigan, and his last year he did it, and so his summer enrollment was way higher than it had been the summer previous. So it's a huge asset for him.
So you enroll September?
And they just keep right on going. So we do quarterly reviews, assessments on the kids, and then if they're able to make the progression to the next class, they get recommended. That's why they just get a progress report that says, hey, good job, you're doing great, keep going, we've got a couple more skills to learn. It's really positive, and
But you run into summer.
we did go to memberships.
Have you found that it's an issue when they're moving up levels? So there's
Oh,
some
Lily,
space?
sorry, Lily, figure that out.
That's our little piece we rolled about now.
Can you say your question out loud so we can all hear?
Sorry, what was the question down there?
She was just wondering about the transfer of kids between classes.
We want to hear that too.
Yeah, and I said we struggled a little bit because we were really walking into it not quite knowing exactly how to do it smoothly. And so there was a little bit of a lag on the wait list, but we just readjusted some of the levels on the classes and it worked out really well so far, so we're doing okay.
So your kids sign up indefinitely or for a year?
Indefinitely.
Definitely.
So we don't kick anyone out. It's
Because
like,
they always
you pay
say
your
that
bills, you
it's
pay your
harder to
bills
get
until
the
you
kids.
cancel
It's
it.
easier to keep than it is to get them. So once you keep
So
them.
how do you do it for summer? It just
Keeps
continues
right
on?
on going until they get their 1 month.
So you have the same schedule?
This summer, we'll probably do a condensed schedule version. We're still working on our summer one. And it'll just tighten it down a bit. Instead of offering 8 classes on Monday, we'll probably go down to 4.
So how would you do that with the kids that are rolled over though? Because now all of a sudden, some of their classes aren't
Well,
happening.
because your level 1, 2s, and 3s, you can kind of do a combination of with their coaches and stuff like that. And so the ones that drop will be able to take a look at that. So because they have to get their 1 month drop by June 1st, we know exactly what July's going to look like.
And everybody's on EFT or ACH?
Yeah, it's a little different here, but yeah. Yeah, you're authorized everywhere.
What do you do with like spring camps and summer camps, winter break?
Yeah, we do them all.
But they're separate, they're not part of
They're
the
separate,
classes.
yep.
So
Classes are
they're over and above.
Over and above.
So when they sign up for the month of March,
but we know March is 2 weeks spring break. They pay the same monthly fee. It's
But another
prorated, whether you're on holidays or not, not my problem. We run 3 out of the 4 weeks.
Well,
It is what it is.
Are their times staying the same to train?
I was
And
reading,
they run your day camps and
Over and
whatever.
above.
I was
So we're
reading
not
somebody,
really licensed for this school as well.
Right.
Indefinitely.
I was reading on somebody's website, I think I gave it to Sharon a few months ago, where they were saying if you, like, because Mondays have holidays, if you sign up for a Monday,
They prorate it a little bit
it's
more.
prorated differently than if your classes on a Tuesday.
That's what we do.
And you base your hourly rate on $15 an hour or?
Yeah, it's 12 something.
Okay.
And we're still working out the little kinks. We're gonna start showing them our competitive. They just can't stay again. They can see what it
Yeah, so
actually
they're-
costed, and then we're showing them their discounted rate. So we're working on that for the next billing cycle for them. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that one.
How do you have a big classes?
They can print the statements right off that question.
How big a gym are you?
We're probably about 900 recreational members, and then we have our competitive, and we also have a fully licensed preschool and a bunch of different other stuff, and then drop-ins and all the rest.
Do your red classes run full?
As much as possible. Yeah, we don't try to run any half classes ever.
So, like our classes run almost 100% full. I mean, there's very few openings like the level 1s, level 2s. So how do you move kids then to the next level? If everybody signs up forever, is there one day you say, okay, everybody's gonna shift
Well,
up?
because in some of the classes, all 8 of them go from level 1 to level 2. That class just becomes a level 2 class because they all graduated.
So do you just change the class
Because
on?
we know that her coaches have to turn in their reports, their progress reports. We make those changes as we
So
can.
then you get another level 1 coach to pick up the open class below you?
If we feel that there's going to be extra enrollment coming in, yes, we'll open up more level 1 because now we've taken some level 1s and made them 2. So, yeah, we're always playing and adding and stuff like that.
So what about if you have say 7 kids in a class and there's a new enrollment in?
They go to
And
class.
where do you place them? And if all your classes are full and the level's already condensed, how do you take it more?
We're always, if there's anybody waiting for a class, we're looking at opening extra classes. So we're always trying to add to the classes and stuff like that. So the coaching staff have appreciated it because they have a consistent schedule. And lots of hours. Yeah, they're happy with their
The
hours.
less registration work we have to do.
Less registration, exactly. I can say that. We don't have the headache every 13 weeks.
So then do you also have trouble with people not paying? You know, people give you bad credit cards, they give you account numbers for ACH.
Here in Canada, come on.
Nobody would do that.
It shows right away on iClass Pro that they haven't done their payment, their account's marked red. As soon as they do the attendance on the class and the child is there, the child should have to get dismissed from the class because it shows their account's not paid. So
the coach is
they
there
on the
to
tablets, right on the tablets, they take their attendance, and so you can see it right there.
And they really do put them out, that's tough.
It is, so we really haven't had an issue, to be honest, right now.
That's great.
Do your coaches have ballots for attendance?
That's what you're supposed to do, that's fine.
Where do they store them?
We have a, and then they'll have.
Well, let's keep moving on here. We do it in a 13-week session. I hear, 19, 18, 20 weeks. One of the reasons that we had chosen to do it in the amount of time that we did, A, was because we didn't have a program in the day to just roll kids over and automatically collect the payment. We would have to contact each and every family if they didn't pay. That's a lot of families to contact. And trying to get those classes to roll over every time it was a very tedious and difficult task. Nobody was happy. The coaches weren't happy. The registrars weren't happy. Nobody was happy. So we went to 13 weeks, and we found it actually worked out really well. There's a lot of really great benefits to having an extended session, whether it's year-round, whether it's 13 weeks or 20 weeks. I know the 20 weeks is kind of, I like the twice. That's interesting. One of the things that we like about having a longer session is that the kids are able to make those lasting relationships in their classes, whether it's with other kids in the gym, whether it's with their coaches. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a parent will call me up and say, hey, do you have the email address for so-and-so because my kid wants to have a play date. Of course, we don't give out the information, but we do play secretary, and then we call the other families, give them their contact information. But that happens quite a bit. These kids make real lasting relationships, and we really want to encourage that. They also develop a real sense of trust with their coach. The coaches get a real following. I mean, I still have kids, I haven't coached a class in probably 3 years. I still have kids that come in every single time, say hi to me, they want to give a hug, because we had that relationship where they felt so comfortable and so excited by what they were doing. They want to still be able to touch base with me a little bit. They're really able to see their skills progress. We kind of got off topic, but does anybody do monthly registration? Not rollovers, but just straight up monthly registration here anymore?
That's what I do for weeks.
Yeah, terrible choice. One of the things that we noticed is that the kids are not able to progress as well. They're constantly having to start back at the beginning. They're constantly having new kids. They're constantly having changes. No matter how much you're trying to keep things the same, when you're doing a new registration batch every month, things are they're constantly changing. So we want to try and keep things consistent as much as possible. One of the other things that we do in the summertime, we do either a 7 or an 8-week session. It kind of depends on how the holidays fall throughout the year, if it's 7 or 8 weeks. The nice thing with this is that the 8-week session, we're just going to go with 8 weeks no matter if it's 7 or 8, right? The 8-week session, you get the lowest price per class. But if you know you're going to be gone, you can choose to do 6 weeks. You pay a slightly higher price per class, or you can do 4 weeks in the summertime. And again, you pay the highest price per class. But the flexibility that you get with doing 4 weeks, you can do any 4 weeks you want. You can do 2 in July, 2 in August. You can do every other week if you want, if you know you're going to be out. By signing up for even the 4-week option, you're still getting priority in for the fall, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people will sign up for the summer, not show up a single time because they're in Canada, they're on vacation, I don't know, they're somewhere, but they want that priority spot for fall. And so by giving them the 4-week option, they're paying a smaller price. If they happen to come to 1 or 2 classes, great. We do still try to keep it progressive. So we're still going through the skills. If the kids can be there, terrific. If we have to modify what we're doing for those specific kids, that's okay too, because our numbers are low enough that we're really able to focus on each individual child.
So you don't give priority to anybody that was in the classes last spring?
Absolutely not.
Everybody starts fresh?
Everybody starts fresh. That way they, if
Except for
somebody...
people who are enrolled in summer.
In summer, yeah.
Because they do that, so they get that 4 o'clock Monday time.
Mm-hmm. We want to be able to encourage our parents to sign up for the entire school year, right? But it's sometimes hard to get kids in. We've got a lot of kids on waiting lists. We have a huge area of kids that we're trying to get into classes. And so by starting fresh in the fall, we're able to start fresh with a schedule. If we need to move classes around, we're able to start completely fresh. And we're able to try and get in some of those newer kids. You know, I always said that we get a in burst of enrollment in August, and then we get another big burst in September. That time in August is a great time for new families who've never been in to be able to get in and to start classes. Then we typically have a pretty slow ramp up in the fall. By about mid-September is when we're full. So that gives us a lot of time to get new families in for the entire school year. All right, we already talked about monthly registration. Let's talk about registrar training, how to actually train a registrar. Before we move on to that, does anybody else have questions about monthly or sessions or anything?
Hi, just a quick question. Policy for siblings, what is, like, do you have discount for siblings?
So we do, not for the classes, but we have a once-a-year registration fee. So it's $40 for the first child and $25 for every additional child. That gives them a discount into the indoor playground. It also helps cover the insurance costs that we have to have.
It's like a
down.
membership that you charge? So this is the same charge for the public level also?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Same with the public level also?
Same, yep, if you're enrolled in any sort of a class, you pay a registration fee. We also give a, when we're doing sign-ups, so the first week is priority, right? That's where current kids can stay in their exact same day, class, and time. The second week is transfer, where kids can move to different levels if they need to. That's also when siblings can sign in. So we try to give families a little bit of an extra time our current customers an extra time to be able to get their additional siblings in before we open it up to the general public. Okay, moving on to registrar training. We try really hard to have all of our registrars trained by one person. Again, we have 4 locations, so it's really important that all of our registrars, A, know all of the same information, are using the same verbiage, and are following the same policies. As soon as it gets out in the community that, again, Columbia City is not following the same policies that Lake City is, inevitably, Lake City is the one that's upholding the policy the firmest, and so we're the ones that the parents get mad at. So we try to keep it the same across all of the different gyms.
And it happens. We had one gym just decided to terminate open gym. Well, everybody is on the website has promised open gym, and they just decided to quit. We didn't know until all those people showed up in Lake City and said, well, there's no open gym in Valley, so we want to come here.
Yeah.
So you have to track what's going on at your sites.
Especially when you do have so many different locations. Being a registrar, one of the most important jobs for me is to be the salesperson. For us, the coach and the gymnastics is the product. So we want to try and promote and sell as much as we can. The coaches sell themselves, having a great personality, teaching a great class, but we want them to not have to worry about the sales side. We want them to really be able to focus on giving a great class, and the registrars be in charge of doing all of that sales work. One of the last things to talk about, burnout. Being a registrar is not an easy job. It is stressful. There are a ton of things to do. I can't tell you the last time I had nothing to do at my gym. I can't tell you that. But it's really important that you give your staff breaks, that you give your staff ways to be able to not burn out so quickly. One of the first ways is to allow them to take breaks. At our gym, we're oftentimes the only person there. So taking a 15-minute break every 4 hours, that's not an option. I eat my lunch at my desk. I'm assuming a lot of you eat your lunch at your desk. You do what you got to do to get through the day. I think the best thing that we started doing is one of my very best friends happens to be my other registrar. We take 5 minutes when a class is happening, there's nobody at the front desk, we go around the corner and we gossip like little schoolgirls. Just something to get your mind off of what you're doing, to give yourself that release. If you need to go take a walk around the block, hopefully there's somebody who can sit at the front desk for 5 minutes. But whatever you need to do to give yourself a little bit of a release. We also really try to encourage our registrars to have a career path. We want to be able to give them something that they're shooting for. They're not just going to be listening to customer complaints for their entire rest of their career at SGA. There's a place that they can grow to. For me, it happened to be the director of being all the registrars. That's pretty cool. I had assumed that I was just going to be a front desk girl for the whole rest of my life. But I was given a place to grow, and that career advancement, I think, is really important too.
We're going to talk more about that later, how we help staff training and development.
Yeah. Any other questions about how to be a registrar, how to do registration, thoughts, comments?
How many people actually do registration and sales work? Oh, we all do. Not dedicated, okay, yeah, who's dedicated to nothing but sales and registration? So, how many people could afford having a sales and registration person?
Can't afford not to.
Can't afford not to. Absolutely. It only takes signing up a couple extra kids every week to be able to cover the cost of your registrar. And the amount of work that we do, particularly because the coaches need to coach. The owners need to deal with the management. The owners don't need to deal with the customers. The coaches don't need to deal with the financial aspect of it. They need to be able to focus on how is best to grow their gym. So I think having registrars is really important to do that. Go for it.
Give me a break, stand up, stretch, we'll be organized here.